Hillbrow, a city of contrast where hope and hardship collide. Behind the bustling streets and towering buildings, a hidden world exists. A world where childhood is stolen and survival becomes a daily struggle. This is their reality. Her name was Thandi. At 16, she left her village believing the city held opportunity. Instead, she found herself trapped in a system controlled by people who saw her as a commodity rather than a child. With dreams in her heart and innocence in her eyes, she stepped off the dusty truck, clutching a small bag containing all her worldly possessions. The city welcomed her with a cacophony of sounds, a jarring contrast to the tranquility of her village. Here in the sprawling complex of Hillbrow, survival was the main agenda. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the maze-like streets, young Thandi found herself at the mercy of this concrete jungle. Vendors hawked their wares, their voices competing with the rumble of taxis. The air was thick with the aroma of grilled meat and exhaust fumes, a strange concoction that did little to mask the underlying tension. She stood frozen amidst the sea of faces, each person an enigma, each glance a potential threat. Where was she supposed to go? Who could she turn to in this labyrinth of towering high-rise flats? With each passing moment, the weight of her isolation pressed down on her. Fear gnawed at her, whispering doubts about her decision to leave her village behind. The vibrant, hopeful girl who had boarded the truck seemed like a distant memory now. She had come to the city seeking a better life, lured by the promise of work and independence. But now, standing on the precipice of despair, she realized she'd entered a world where hope was a luxury and survival a daily battle. As darkness enveloped Hillbrow, Thandi felt a cold dread creep up her spine. The bustling streets transformed into shadowy alleys, and the comforting sounds of the day gave way to an unsettling silence punctuated by the distant hum of machinery and the murmur of unseen voices. What was supposed to be a new beginning was rapidly turning into a nightmare. With trembling hands, she clutched her bag closer, its thin fabric offering little protection against the harsh realities of her new environment. Each step she took echoed in the cavernous space, amplifying her fear and making her feel more exposed. The air grew colder, mirroring the chill that had seeped into her bones. The city, once a beacon of opportunity, now loomed over her like a menacing giant, its towering buildings casting long, ominous shadows that seemed to mock her tiny figure. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring the already indistinct outlines of the buildings around her. Was she truly on her own in this vast, uncaring city? The question echoed in her mind, unanswered, adding to the growing sense of dread. The flickering glow of a neon sign momentarily banished the darkness, revealing a narrow hallway that promised shelter, if only she dared to step inside. It was a gamble, but one she had to take. The thought of another night spent in the open, vulnerable and alone, was too terrifying to contemplate. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the door and stepped inside. Trapped in the system, the door closed softly behind her, sealing her fate within the four bare walls of the room. The darkness was suffocating, broken only by the faint glow of a neon beer advert that bled through the grimy window. Outside, the muffled sounds of Hillbrow carried on, a stark reminder of the world she was now shut off from. The air was heavy with the stench of stale waste and despair. On the floor lay a bare mattress, a testament to the harsh realities that awaited her here. As the hours passed, the silence was broken only by the hum of activity from the street, each sound a piercing intrusion into her fragile sanctuary. The occasional slam of a door or the rumble of a passing vehicle jolted her from her thoughts, a constant state of alertness becoming her new norm. Sleep evaded her, replaced by an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. In the stillness, her imagination ran wild, conjuring up imagined horrors that amplified her fears. The room became a universe, its boundaries marked by the cracked walls and threadbare mattress. Her personal belongings, a jumbled heap in a corner, seemed to mock her with their randomness. A diary or a notebook lay open on the floor, its pages blank, waiting for entries that would never come. Each day bled into the next, the monotony broken only by the cycle of hunger and exhaustion. She moved from place to place, always looking over her shoulder, never truly feeling safe. Each new environment came with its own set of rules, its own unspoken dangers. The constant thread of discovery hung over her, a dark cloud that followed her everywhere. Every move she made was watched, every decision controlled. Her agency, her very identity was stripped away, leaving her hollow and defeated. The vibrant, spirited girl who had dreamed of a better life in the city was fading, replaced by a shadow of her former self. Yet even in the darkest moments, a small flicker of hope remained, a yearning for a life beyond the confines of her current situation, a belief that someday she would break free from the shackles that bound her. Life on the streets. The relentless sun beat down on the tarmac, radiating a heat that seemed to seep into Thandi's very bones. She stood at the corner of two busy streets, her gaze fixed on the endless stream of passing cars. The air was thick with the smell of exhaust fumes, and the distant sounds of construction echoed in the distance. This intersection, a hive of activity during the day, was now a ghost town. Shop fronts shuttered and street vendors had packed up their stalls long ago. The rhythmic hum of traffic slowly faded into the background as the evening descended upon Hill. The sky blazed with hues of orange and purple, a spectacular backdrop to the daily drama that unfolded on the streets below. Taxis zoomed through the intersection, their horns blaring in a cacophony of sound. Women hurried along the sidewalks, their voices rising above the din. Pedestrians weaved in and out of the traffic, creating a sea of humanity that surged and ebbed with the flow of the evening rush hour. As dusk settled over Hillbrow, Thandi found herself drawn to the familiar haven of the NGO worker outreach program. The sight of the smiling faces and the promise of a warm meal was a beacon of hope in her life. This darkening landscape. With each step she took toward the center, memories of her childhood flickered in her mind. Times of laughter, warmth, and security that now felt like a distant dream. The bustling streets of Hillbrow, with their mix of poverty, desperation, and resilience, had become her new reality. But within this harsh environment, life still went on. Children played on the pavements, their laughter echoing in the narrow alleys. Street vendors hawked their wares, their voices ringing with optimism. The city's pulse quickened as the night wore on, the streets filling with the aroma of roasted peanuts and the rhythmic thump of music from an unseen source. Even in the darkest corners, life found a way to persevere. Resilience and inner strength. Sunlight streamed through the barred window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. The Johannesburg skyline, a jagged silhouette on the horizon, hinted at the challenges that lay ahead. Thandi sat on the edge of the mattress, her gaze fixed on the distant view. Her reflection stared back at her, a pale, tired face framed by unruly hair. In this small room, devoid of color and hope, she found solace in her thoughts. She closed her eyes and imagined a world different from the one that had dealt her such a harsh hand. She pictured a future where she was free, where she could make her own choices and carve her own path. The desire for a better life burned within her, a flame that refused to be extinguished by the darkness that surrounded her. Each day brought new challenges, new battles to fight, new tears to shed. But with each sunrise, she found the strength to rise and face them. The diary became her confidant, its pages filled with stories untold, dreams deferred and hopes rekindled. In the safety of her sanctuary, she poured out her heart, giving voice to the voiceless. As the months passed, the walls of the room bore witness to her transformation. The scared, lost girl who had stumbled in one day was slowly being replaced by a young woman of substance, a survivor. The strength she discovered within herself surprised even her. The mere act of getting out of bed each morning was a victory. The decision to write, to read, to dream was a rebellion against the confines of her situation. A glimmer of hope. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the bustling streets of Hillbrow. The air was alive with the chatter of people going about their daily routines, a stark contrast to the somber mood that had permeated the area for so long. Today, there was an energy here, a sense of anticipation that something was changing. The cramped rooms where young girls like Thandi had been confined no longer held their captive audience. Doors that had once been bolted from the inside were now open, letting in the light and the fresh air. Laughter echoed from a community kitchen where volunteers were serving hot meals to those in need. In a small corner of Hillbrow, an art class was in full swing. Young girls, their faces alight with creativity, were painting pictures of their dreams and aspirations. The colors they chose were bold, vibrant, a stark contrast to the gray reality that had been their life for so long. And at the heart of it all was Thandi, her eyes shining with newfound purpose. The outreach workers had become more than just helpers. They were mentors, guides, and most importantly, friends. They had opened doors for Thandi, not just to education and job training, but also to a sense of belonging, of being part of a community. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the city in hues of orange and purple, Thandi stood on the balcony of a safe house, her gaze sweeping across the cityscape. The skyline shimmered in the distance, a silent witness to her journey. Tonight, a sense of hope and determination filled her heart. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready. With each step she took toward freedom, she carried with her the strength of her spirit and the belief that one day soon she would stand tall, independent and proud, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The city of contrasts. The sun rises over Johannesburg, casting its golden glow over the towering skyscrapers and the sprawling informal settlements that cling to its sides. The streets below begin to stir with life. Children on their way to school weave between vendors setting up their stalls, their laughter echoing in the narrow alleys. The air is filled with the aroma of roasting meat and freshly brewed coffee. On a street corner, a group of men huddle around a radio, their voices low as they discuss the day's news. A passing taxi honks its horn, momentarily drowning out the murmurs of the city. From a window high above, Thandi watches the scene unfold. A faint smile touches her lips as she takes in the vibrant chaos that surrounds her. The city of Hillbrow may be a place of contrasts, where poverty and wealth, hope and despair seem to exist in a precarious balance. But life goes on. It ebbs and flows with the rhythm of the streets, the pulse of the people who call this place home. And as the sun climbs higher in the sky, bathing the city in its warm embrace, the spirit of resilience shines through. For here in the heart of Johannesburg, life finds a way to bloom even in the cracks of the pavement.